to go to. So I know that it, you know, in my office at least, it's a big concern.
Mr. Fode? So, Greg, this was one that stuck out for me. It's off the amount, because 22,000 and is not a big number, and the safety of the employees absolutely is necessary. Your explanation is great. I'm happy that the extensions, the plexiglass extensions weren't, you know, to enclose it, because it definitely is impersonal. However, and I'll defer to Liz on this one, is you may want to consider that for the finance department, though. I think it's strange that I can just go there and it's completely wide open. I think that's an area that you might want to consider.
You mean the door?
I'm talking about even the area, instead of just putting an extension, you may want to enclose that completely.
We can discuss that. I do know other town halls and city halls have full, you know, counter to ceiling glass, and then you just have some sort of system where you can push the payment through.
Right.
You have a speaker hole. You know, I don't know the proper terminology, but
there's several different ways of looking at it, and you know, I know we're a small town, but this is, in this day and age, you're gonna start thinking about stuff like that, especially, and you know, so I appreciate what you're talking about doing for the other departments, but you may want to consider more for the treasurer's office, finance office.
The budget does include sealing the glass.
No, it does not.
It's already factored in.
And
I think I'm here. I think Mr. Conover, you said it does. It does not.
The budget does factor in counter to the top. We can adjust the height, whatever.
To all the offices? Yeah, I wouldn't recommend all the offices.
I
think it's very impersonal.
I wouldn't either, because again, when you're in the building department or something, oftentimes people want to review a plan. I still want something where people can reach over comfortably and flip through a plan or flip through a book and have an understanding. I think it's important that we have that aspect and maintain it.
I'm having a difficult time visualizing this being user-friendly. You know, as far as the general public coming in, whether it be checking the assessor's records and books, or whether it be looking at something in the town clerk's office, or whether it be whatever, looking at a set of plans, you know, with the building inspector. It's not conducive to it. I know there are irate members of the public who commit a complaint. That happens. But in all the years that I've been involved, I haven't heard of an incident of anybody going over the counter or going after someone, literally. I don't know. I have we are still a small town, and I guess I'm not quite where some other people may be as far as giving up the feeling of accessibility for the public. We're not a bank, you know. And again, how heavy is this plexiglass? For $22,000 to handle what we're talking about here, I don't know what the...
Well, my goal, Steve, and I happen to agree with you, I think that the counter to ceiling is extremely impersonal. The goal is just to create a barrier that might be 2 feet tall, again, to prevent someone from getting a handhold or a foothold. Without a handhold or a foothold, you can't get over the counter. You can't do it.
Yeah, but you're putting the barrier
right,
the edge of the
right
edge
on the
counter.
edge.
So if I want to go and look at the assessor's records or the books, assessor's books are kind of loud.
Yeah,
Think about how tall I am. I'm going to need a footstool.
I would think it would be on the counter. If you're going
I
to
don't
do
know
it, it's
how
not
you-
on the edge. You have it somewhere on the counter, set back, recessed, sort of.
There'll be a separate table outside for you.
I'm sorry?
Talk to the employees about. There'll be a table they can spread things out on next to with this plexiglass stuff.
See, my concern is the handhold and the foothold. If you can't get a handhold and foothold, you can't get over the counter. You know, you just physically, unless you're an Olympic athlete, you can't get over it. So that's the
I think if the cameras are visible, then they, in and of themselves, act as a deterrent.
okay.
Truly, I mean, people know that there's a security camera there taping their activity. That acts as a deterrent. If someone is, you know, out of their mind, there isn't much you can do about it.
Well, I think that's what this is for. And I came in the heels of about a month and a half ago, where I think everyone in the building, at least every female in the building, was quite distraught over what they just experienced in terms of gentlemen coming in, being irate over his failure to pay an excise tax bill from 20 years ago, and they were all shaken. And I don't think a camera is going to deter someone. They're not going to have the presence of mind to say, oh, the camera's videotaping me or potentially videotaping, so I must calm down. I think it's going to be a split-second decision, and then it's too late. So I understand we're still a small town, but God forbid something were to happen, for this amount of money, if we give protection, if we give some sense of safety and security to the employees, I think it's money well spent. I wouldn't want floor to ceiling or counter to ceiling plexiglass, but in certain areas, I think we need to give protection. And I don't think we lose the personal nature of the interaction between those that are coming into town hall and those that are working here.
And if I may just add, the cameras are just going to videotape. They're not going to have audio on them, and there are verbal threats made more than just the situation that you encountered when you happened to be here. So there would be the person could just say, I didn't say anything, even though, they may be excited, but my staff feels very, very threatened. And if we don't have some measures in place, there could be more repercussions if something did happen, whether it was from staff or, you don't know what could happen. So I think that these minor precautionary methods that we take will really help in the long run. Even if nothing ever happens, at least we know that we've done our due diligence. So
We have found, I'm frequently called out of the office to intervene on these things, and a male employee generally calms down some of these people right away, and I'll say, just, can you step aside and get the person away from the counter, and they're okay. But without that presence, I'm not here all the time, and it's just one of those situations that if I'm here, we can deal with it. If Dick is here or Gene is here, we can deal with it. But if someone's left on their own, then we don't want to see a tragedy.
But how much of a problem is that other than the collector's office? In the buildings, or DPW, town clerk?
Less so of an issue in the building department, because they want and they need something. It's typically a problem in the
finance area, collector.
In the assessing finance area.
Right.
Very much so.
if they're not getting an abatement that they're supposed to get, or...
Oh, that's right, you guys all share that
Right.
same column.
Right.
Yeah, you'll notice that people have baby pictures posted and pink ribbons, and we're trying everything we possibly can to keep people calm. And the goal, we want to have this stuff in place for the first of the year. We think it's important that we do so. We do so in a proactive manner as quickly as possible.
And another important thing that we haven't mentioned, we do have cash on hand, and currently it's just a cash register that's sitting there. Not that someone could get away with a lot of cash, but there is money, and especially on different times of the year. So it's just a good.
So let me ask you a question. I'm sorry,
Mr. Briscoe,
I apologize.
you'll learn.
Have you, in any of your research, come up with any brochures or anything that you could actually maybe show us?
Yes,
next time?
I'll
Just
put
be-
something together.
I think it may help
My
Larry to
idea,
understand
my idea comes
maybe a little bit more.
from the bank I go to.
Because I'm with Steve a little bit, I
Yeah.
think it is a little impersonal, but I think when you look at some of the designs, I've been thinking North Andover has it set up, and it's actually pretty nice.
In town hall?
Yeah, and the window, they actually have a pretty good sized hole, so I can see their face, they can see mine,
Yeah.
we can talk pretty easy. But there's no way I can get through there
Right.
and hurt anybody or do anything. And anyway, it would be helpful if we had a little.
I'll put some pictures together.
What's that?
Yeah, I guess. No, I'm not.
Mr. Porter?
Liz, the question I asked, are you in favor of just the extension, or would you rather see that area?
My personal preference, and from my prior life, I would rather see the whole glass. But if we can get half of a glass, I'll be okay with that too. But
What's the whole glass going to give you versus the partial glass that Greg has proposed?
I don't know what much difference, but I
It's more
mean,
peace of mind.
Better security?
From a
Well,
security
you
standpoint,
can get
it's
over
about
it.
the same.
I mean, what they're proposing is, there's no way you can get access behind that counter with a
I
full
just think with
glass.
the money and the people they deal with, you know, their issues, I think.
so I mean, I don't know what I guess it would be peace of mind to the staff to know that they were protected, and, you know, I can tell from past experience, the residents, you know, still were able to have a conversation with the clerks in the department, and, you know, good relationships. So, you know, I don't see that it takes away too much from customer service.
I just see that as the extreme. I can see how you want something that's going to deter someone from trying to get up and get over it, even if there's some partial barrier there. You go from counter to
Right.
ceiling, I think it's extreme.
No, but I think even, you know, if we can just get to the partial, then we'll have some peace of mind, and, you know, whether it's really going to protect us or not, I think it just will smooth things over.
Thank you.
I just want to be assured that, too, that the cameras are not used for time and attendance purposes on the
No.
employees.
They
It's
wouldn't
not
be.
the intent.
Oh,
You know, shake your head, just from my
No.
other role in life. I've seen these types of systems put into place for security purpose reasons, and all of a sudden, employees are being called on the carpet for time and attendance purposes, and it was never intended to be so.
We'll be oriented to face the counter, the employee will be behind them, so that's the way it's got to work. So it's in the faces of the people at the counter.
Yeah, I don't believe you mentioned anything about exterior cameras, did you?
No.
It was just all interior sort of
All-
cameras, so you're not
all
monitoring doors.
interior.
Anything further? Nope.
No,
We can
sir.
move on?
I'm ready.
Next building request is for expansion of the IT department. The requested amount was $91,500. The goal is to expand our IT offices to provide sufficient space for the growing needs within the existing town hall footprint. We all know that we are limited in terms of the size of the footprint we have, and critically, we need to maintain the meeting space that we have that is booked up nearly every night throughout the week. So that is really the main goal, is to keep our meeting rooms and deal within the existing footprint that we have. So what we've identified is phase one, which would involve the relocation of one office to a section of room 10. If you know room 10, you'll know that there's a cubicle that's there that houses the youth services department. What we want to do is extend that wall out to the window. So presently, I believe there's a large metal desk that occupies that corner of room 10. That would be the item that would be displaced. We'd also allow us to upgrade the meeting space in room 10. Room 10 has deficient heating and ventilation systems. There is no heating and ventilation system in the youth services department right now, and I can assure you that that employee suffered greatly with the heat wave that we had a couple of weeks back. We need to install air conditioning and proper heating in that space to not only serve youth services, but the new offices being constructed and room 10. So the goal is to do that. And then phase two of the project would be making certain improvements to the space that's presently occupied by the IT staff. That would be the server room. There would be no staff in the server room. We would install a new server room air conditioning unit. We would install anti-static flooring, and we would make internal electrical computer and telephone wiring configuration that's adaptable to that space. Presently, the space is extremely constrained. If you've been in there, I'm sure every single board member has been by that office. You know there's no room that's there. And if we're going to be adding an additional IT staff person, there's no place to put them. So what we're envisioning is we would be relocating the Veterans Office. The Veterans Office would move to the newly constructed space at room 10, and the existing Veterans Office would be modified to accommodate the IT staff. There would be no hole or pass-through between the two doorways. That was one of the issues that was in the original proposal, and one of the reasons as to why there's a differential in cost. And we would not be making major improvements to that space where the Veteran Service Office is, because it's a suitable office location right now for the purposes of housing the IT department. And that is the reason why the cost is $46,500. Questions?
Yes.
Anything else?
Okay. Last,
Well-
Gene?
I just wanted to speak to that HVAC in the server room currently. Right now, we use a split system